Thank you. Dear Chairs Miller and Austin, members of the Planning and Development Committee, I am here on behalf of the Western Connecticut Council of Governments, the second most populous region in the state, the most highly congested, and the region with the highest transit ridership in the state. We are very interested in House Bill 6851. We thank you for all the work you've done on such projects in the past on transit-oriented development, and in principle, we support transit-oriented development. My Council of Governments, however, is not able to take a position on House Bill 6851 because there are a number of questions surrounding this rather complex bill. We understand you may not have answers to all these questions, but we would like to raise them nonetheless, perhaps rhetorically, but perhaps also to seek answers if possible. So I'd like to go through these questions. How will the authority relate to Connecticut's tradition of home rule? Would the from local land use regulations? What would the role of local conservation and development and local TOD plans be in the authority's planning and project delivery? The authority's purposes include the stimulation of new investment, economic development, and tourism, art, culture, history, education, and entertainment, among others. These purposes could include an almost limitless array of projects. How will projects be selected? What process would the authority follow in planning and constructing projects? Will there be public involvement in project selection and development? All of these things are unclear from the legislation. What recourse of municipalities and property owners have in case of dispute? Many of these projects may not be non-problematic from a public perspective. The bill empowers the authority to condemn property that is, quote, necessary or desirable, unquote, for the purposes of the aforementioned economic development, tourism, art, etc. How will necessary or desirable be determined? Desirable is a word that is, open to interpretation. What process would the authority follow in condemning properties? Would municipalities and property owners have recourse in this process? The bill empowers the authority to dispose of its properties or interests, quote, to transfer or dispose of any property or interest therein acquired by the property at any time. What process will the authority follow in disposing of property? The bill also empowers the authority to, quote, do all acts and things necessary or convenient to carry out the aforementioned purposes. Are there restrictions on this power? This power seems like a carte blanche. Would there be legislative or judicial oversight over the authority and its decisions? We could find no such reference in the bill. What impact would the authority have on the state's credit rating? The authority does have the power to bond. Is there a limit on this power to bond? Who would be responsible for the authority's obligations should it become insolvent? These questions are somewhat germane because many other states have used public authorities to essentially move public debt off the state ledgers. We are concerned about that. And finally, would the authority be subject to freedom of information laws? That is also not clear from the bill before you. Those are the questions I have. I understand they're quite complex. It was a long list. But we are very interested in this bill. We are interested in promoting transit-oriented development. However, before my Council of Governments can take a position on this important matter, we need to have more specificity about these questions.
Thank you for your testimony. I think some of your questions have been previously mentioned, and there's quite a few other speakers who have had some of the same concerns. So clearly there's a need to flesh this out to get a much fuller picture. Are there questions from our committee? No, thank you for your testimony, sir.